I've been talking about a lot of different types of propulsions over the year, from synthetic gas to electric vehicles. We've seen ammonia. We've seen even some really interesting things coming up as far as green energy. But BMW is investing in hydrogen. Now, this is an electric iX5, so it's the BMW iX5 SUV. This is one of the test vehicles from BMW. It's an iX5, so it's a 5 Series electric vehicle, and it's got the propulsion of hydrogen. And we get to take it for a drive and give you some information about it that might be interesting and could lead to the future of energy that would work with batteries and work on commercial applications. The technology of fuel cells is really interesting because it can not just charge an electric vehicle, but that fuel cell technology enables faster fueling, about 3 to 4 minutes. That'll save you a ton of time versus waiting 20 minutes for a charge, 7 minutes or so to add when it comes to regular gasoline. It's about the same time. And customers will be really happy if they own an electric vehicle because they're not going to be standing in line waiting for a charge. So hydrogen makes a ton of sense. Now, I know you're going to say, what about the infrastructure? Well, right now, infrastructure in California is about 63 different stations, and they're also building them in South Korea and in Japan and in China, but we don't have it here in the US and other areas. Now, some commercial vehicles do use it. You'll see a lot of buses running on natural gas or hydrogen. So this is some of the propulsions that we're going to see in the near future. Now, as far as cost and feasibility, the one thing about these stations is once you build one, you're going to start getting more and more attention to it, and you can put it into gas stations and it won't look unusual to customers, which will give them that comfort level when it comes to fueling up. It also uses a lot less raw materials, which is nice. Only about 10% of the raw materials that you would need when it comes to a battery. So you would be less materials used, better for the environment. Now, hydrogen could play a role in alternative energy choices, and one of the nice things is that you don't lose range when it comes to winter or hot temperatures like you do with an electric vehicle. Hydrogen fueling stations, initial investment will be to build stations, but like they're doing it in Europe, it's going to take time in order to flatten that curve. And the European Union is mandating EV charging in the future, and hydrogen stations are part of that by 2030. They want a maximum of 1 every 200 kilometers between stations so that customers can charge and go from city to city to city without having the issue they have with electric and plugging in. They'll be able to fuel up with hydrogen. Again, this is going to take time for this to come into play. So the EU is planning to end gasoline-powered vehicles by 2030. We'll see if that actually happens. But hydrogen refueling stations will be built in intervals that will make it easy to travel from city to city, and that includes 700 bar points for passengers, in other words, places to charge, a total of 600 hydrogen fueling stations. When it comes to efficiency, cost, and feasibility, these are important factors when it comes to making hydrogen vehicles. Excess energy can be used to produce hydrogen at a very low cost using renewable energy. And one other thing about hydrogen, because it uses less materials, it's less damage to the environment. What you do get with hydrogen is great acceleration, zero emissions, quick fueling, powerful towing, and it can be paired with battery technology. We take the iX5 fuel cell SUV for a test drive. One of the interesting things about hydrogen is there is no exhaust pipe, but there is water, pure distilled water that comes out of a downspout that's underneath the vehicle. And you won't even notice it unless it's really cold outside. You might see some steam coming from underneath the vehicle, but that is pure water. Initially, this will be designed for rear-wheel drive setups, but you're also going to see it for all-wheel drive. And you're going to have a range of about 500 miles. That's quite a bit. That's what they say. And one of the things you might be thinking, what about safety? Well, safety is an extremely important part of fuel cells. They're certified for top safety. They've been tested for years. I actually drove cars into the 90s. The Chevy Equinox was in fuel cell technology, as well as the Ford Explorer, and they've already been tested. They dropped them off of 6-story buildings. They've taken them all over the world in all different conditions and climates and temperatures in order to prove that it actually works. The cost of green hydrogen compared to fuel, well, it's about the same as gasoline in Europe. So until the prices come down, which it will, soon you're going to start seeing hydrogen fuel stations in your area. We're inside the hydrogen vehicle, which is an X5, but it's an electric, so it's an iX5. And this is the test vehicle they're starting with. And the truth is, I don't think you're feeling any difference, both the front seat or the back seat, as far as how it drives. Actually, I like how nice, tight feeling this vehicle has. So everything is exactly the same, except the propulsion is via hydrogen. So you have a hydrogen connection on the outside, versus having an electric charge port. And it does the same thing, and 3 to 4 minutes, you're back on the road, much like that of filling up with fuel. Here in the US, one of the big things that's our hurdle is getting infrastructure, just like electric vehicles, but it might be easier to install than that of gas stations because you can use some of the existing pumps, which we've seen in California. There's about 60 some pumps in California. There's also some commercial applications, which hopefully they can open up to consumers. But overall, you won't feel a different driving experience, which I think is important for consumers. They want something they can drive, maybe be greener, a less carbon footprint, especially across the world. So we're starting to see that this is building an infrastructure in Europe. We're going to soon see it in the US. In South Korea, Japan, China, they're already building infrastructure, which will tell you if they're building it, we'll eventually see it here in the US. If you get an opportunity to test drive a hydrogen vehicle in the future, I think you'll be impressed. Definitely look for those opportunities as they come up. It's going to take time for them to get into the smaller cities, but in the larger cities, there's probably going to be some test drives in the near future before it becomes a production vehicle. When it comes to cost for the hydrogen, it's about equivalent to fuel in Europe. So as the price comes down, as technology builds, you're going to see more hydrogen-powered vehicles on the road. Right now, we're just testing. Europe has an infrastructure for it, as does other countries. The US is a little bit behind. We do have about 60-some stations in California. But overall, if you want more information, go to hydrogencouncil.com. They're going to have a lot of information. They've done a lot of studies and showing how the cost savings could be beneficial to you. If you have any comments or questions about hydrogen, put it down below in the comments section. I'll be sure to open up that conversation. It's a really interesting conversation, a lot of great technology coming in the future. If you'd like to support our channel, you can buy me a cup of coffee. The link for that is in the description, as well as for the website, the podcast, the book, and our social media. If you like this video, you got value from it, make sure to like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.